I've been doing recently some work that's very rewarding for me. I have a son who served in the Army and has been to Iraq twice. And I've been lucky actually, to do some work with the Army, the returning vets. And I do presentations on relationships with them. And when I do these deadly and caring habits, they're very pleased to get that information. Is that? It seems to be universal. I mean, people just get it. They understand it, and it makes so much sense, and they understand, oh my gosh, we use all of these deadly habits, and wouldn't it be lovely if we could replace them with the caring habits? So I usually start by saying, is there anybody in the room who has ever been involved in a relationship with a significant other where they wanted you to do something you didn't want to do? Or am I the only one? And that, of course, gets many laughs because we all have been, I think. So then I'll ask, what are some of the things that that person did to try to get you to do it their way? And they'll list the deadly habits. I mean, they'll just give, they don't always use exactly the same words. And I'm done hearing what they say. I'll write down the deadly habits. So, complaining. Who likes to be around complaining? And we all know one, right? We probably have one in our family somewhere, an Aunt Betty somewhere, somebody that's just always complaining. And that person is not drawing people to them like a magnet, right? It's the other way. It's the repelling. Gosh, do I have to go see Aunt Betty again? Because we don't like listening to that. And then when you're in a relationship and people are doing the complaining about you, or things that you choose to do, that makes it even worse because it becomes very personal and it's hard to listen to. So complaining is something that's very destructive to relationships. Then the blaming. I hate to admit this, but when I was raising my children, I had one easy child and one challenging child. Dave was my easy child. Dave was easy because he was a high love and belonging kid and he wanted to please me. If I asked him to do something, he would do it. Not always with a smile on his face, but he wanted to make me happy. Then I had Kyle, my Army boy, who was very high, like his mother, very high in freedom, and he also had a very high power need. And when his father died, I was the only person he got to practice that with, and he did a very good job of practicing. And the other thing about Kyle, with a very high freedom need, I don't know if any of the rest of you are like this. I have a high freedom need. Anybody else high freedom need in here? Let me ask the question, because I think these are correlated. If you're a high freedom need, how much do you like doing housework? Okay. There's something about it that feels so restricted, and it does not meet my freedom need. If you give me anything else, I think I'd go to the dentist before I would clean my toilet. It's not fun for me. Kyle is no exception. So, needless to say, Kyle's room is always messy. Messy problem. Board of Health condemning was more like it. And then his mess would spill over into the rest of the house. That was where, then now I have a problem, all right? So I would do this. It's all your fault we can't go to the movies today, because if you would have picked your stuff up, then we'd be able to go. But since there's still this mess here, we can't go to the movies, and it's your fault. That's the blaming part, right? All right, then we go to the criticizing, and of course, the criticizing, you're such a slob, that came out of my mouth, I don't know how many times. That's a huge criticism. And then I remember once listening to Dr. Glasser say, and I believe it, there is no such thing as constructive criticism, it's an oxymoron. Have you ever been criticized and felt constructed afterwards? No, but there is a difference. I think that there's a thing called information to be able to do good work. And if they don't have the information and you give them the information, I call that information, I don't call that criticism. You're giving me the information I need to do better at my job. You're not saying I'm bad at what I did. If I didn't have the information, I couldn't have done any better. So I think that there's information giving that can be very constructive, but when you criticize me, I never feel constructive. This is one I always say I think it's genetic. Females seem to do this more so than males. I don't know too many nagging males. I just don't. I happen to be very good at nagging. My mother taught me. She was a world-class nagger. I became very skilled and adept at it as well. But I can also tell you that if I asked my children 3 times to do something and they didn't do it, by the 3,000th time, they weren't hearing me. So there was really no benefit for me in nagging. Once I learned this, I really was able to scale that back quite a bit. I don't do the nagging much anymore. Then of course there's threatening. We all are familiar with threatening. And if we've lived, we have heard that expression. You better not threaten what you won't, what? What you won't follow through on. So if you make a threat and the person doesn't respond, what do you have to do? You have to punish, right? Because, hey, I said, if you do this, then I'll do that. And the thing about punishing, I like to think about men and women, we tend to do this differently. Now, I will make some comments about gender differences. I want you to know they are not written in stone. I mean, certainly there are some women that don't fall into the stereotype as well as men. But we tend to punish a little differently, but we do punish. We take away the thing that our partner wants the most. So typically, females, what do we do when we want to punish our guy? Sex. We withdraw affection, right? No sex for you, you're sitting on the couch tonight, blah, 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 right? That's pretty common. Men, what do you take away when you want to punish your woman?
Don't talk.
That's right. You take away attention, communication, listening. So we're not there anymore. And women, we need that communication. And men need sex. And we're punishing each other all the time when we go to this place. So we want to try to reduce that. And then the bribing. Anybody like to be bribed? Have you ever been bribed with a bribe that you really wanted? Of course. And did you do what was requested so you could get your bribe? And then how did you feel afterwards?
Right.
All right,
It's more of a negotiation, though.
Well, if it's a negotiation, that's different, right?
Maybe an unspoken negotiation, but if I chose to do that for the reward, then...
Yeah, let me give you an example of a couple that I worked with that I was just like, this couple came to me for couples counseling, and I don't know if any of you do couples counseling, but a lot of times couples will come to you long after they should have, right? By the time they get to you, they have done so much damage to their relationship. This couple hadn't had sex. They couldn't remember the last time they had sex, but they knew it had been at least 2 years. They came to me, and they came to me after a couple of weeks of coming, and we were talking, and they came to me and they had had sex, and the wife was pretty proud of herself, because, they had had sex after this long drive spell. And so, of course, I asked her, how did that happen? And, she told me that she had a ceiling fan that she wanted her husband to put up in her bedroom. And she told him, honey, if you put up that ceiling fan, we'll have a little fun later. And so the husband, of course, do you think he wanted sex? As far as I know, he hadn't had any in a long time, so yes, he wanted to. Yeah, he wanted some cool air there. But he wasn't very happy afterwards. He really didn't feel like that was a very positive experience. He felt used. I mean, I know women feel used a lot, but this man really felt used and did not feel respected. It was not a positive thing, even though the bride was something that he wanted. I remember saying to my son one time, and this was my love-belonging son, Dave. Both of my children, very smart kids, not great students. And so I said to Dave one time, Dave, you know what I really want? He said, what? I said, you know those bumpers that parents have on the back of their car that says, proud parent of a Homesdale middle school student? I want one of those, but I don't want you to steal it. I want you to really earn it. And one day he came home with that darn bumper sticker and he slammed it on the table and he said, there, don't you ever ask me to do that again. So he did it because I pretty much guilted him into it. But he didn't like doing it, he wasn't happy about it, and he never did it again. That's the truth. So bribing, while these things, and we all know they can work, we all know that. They have not been around for generations and generations and generations because they don't work. We can get people to do what they don't want to do. But what do we lose in the process? You all know the answer to this. What do we lose? The relationship. We may not lose the complete relationship, but we certainly chip away at the foundation of our relationship when we use these things. So we need to, if a strong relationship is what we want, we've got to stop, we've got to start reducing our use of this. I say start reducing our use because I don't know You have to have almost a religious experience to be able to completely stop these. These are so ingrained in what we do. They're so habitual. So I try to tell people, they say, where should I start? And I'll say, just start paying attention. Because I think when we start paying attention and catch ourselves doing these things, we can reduce our use of it as we give it attention. We tend to do these when we're not paying attention, when we're tired, when we don't feel well, when we're out of time. That's when these things come into play. We're not thinking about our relationship. We're stressed about something else, and we go to these. So just start paying attention, even if it's just, oh, here I go, I'm nagging again. Wonder what that's all about. I say, don't even try to stop. Just start paying attention. That's all I'll say. And then they'll come to me and say, no, I'm getting better.